Hello, it's Mr. Muffin from MrMuffin'sTrains, Atlanta, Indiana, home of the Choo Choo Cafe. How are you today? It's Thursday, September 8th, 2022. We got a pallet of steam engines today, 2 pallets actually. I'm supposed to be down at the shop helping my kids, but I'm not. I snuck off to the train layout because I wanted to look at a couple of the steam engines that just came in, and I want to show them to you. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the Monon. I'm a big fan of the Monon Railroad. It's the Chicago, Indianapolis, and Louisville Railroad that ran from Chicago to Louisville, right? And there's 2 main lines on the Chicago, Indianapolis, and Louisville, and they crisscross in northwest Indiana at a little town called Monon. Monon, Indiana. Monon is Indian for swift running. They thought that was a good name. So the railroad became known as Monon, the Monon Railroad. And the Monon Railroad basically starts in Chicago and runs south into Lafayette, Indiana. That's where their shops were. And Lafayette, Indiana, as you probably know, is right across the river from West Lafayette, Indiana. And that is the home of the Purdue Boilermakers. I would sing the fight song for you, but you don't want to hear it, I don't think. I got my engineering degree from there. Then that railroad travels south from there to Crawfordsville, which is where Wabash College is located. And Wabash College and Purdue used to play football against each other. And Wabash claimed that Purdue had such big people on the line because they borrowed Boilermakers from the Monon shops to come and play on their football team. They weren't students. And that's what they accused Purdue of. And that's where the name Boilermaker came from, right? I think it was 1891, I'm not sure. But anyway, they were playing football. And they would go back and forth. The teams and the fans would travel the Monon Railroad back and forth between Lafayette and Crawfordsville for that game every year. Now, the Monon Railroad continues south from Crawfordsville through a bunch of other small towns in Indiana countryside and goes to Bloomington, Indiana. And Bloomington, Indiana, as you might know, is the home of Indiana University, the Hurrian Hoosiers. They are in Bloomington, Indiana. And then the railroad continues on to Louisville. So that's kind of the main drag of the Monon Railroad. So now if your parents went to college in Indiana and they were from somewhere else, out east, or west or whatever, they would have gotten there by putting a steam trunk on a train to Chicago, and it would have been switched at Dearborn Station onto the Monon, and they would have hauled them to Wabash, Purdue, or Indiana along the Monon Railroad. Right? Yep, that's true. Yep. Now, Purdue and Indiana play an annual football game against each other called the Old Oaken Bucket. And whichever team wins, they either put an I or they put a P on the chain that hangs on the bucket, right? And I don't remember how many I's and P's there are, but right now there's a lot of them. They've been playing this game a long time. And back in the day, the Purdue team traveled to Bloomington on the Monon Railroad. And when Indiana was visiting at West Lafayette, they would travel to Purdue on the Monon Railroad. So beginning in 1928, Purdue decided that it was an away game for Purdue. They're going to travel by rail to Indiana. The Monon Railroad decided to decorate the engine for Purdue, and they painted it all up, made it really fancy. And I have pictures of one of these engines and trains, everybody boarding it in downtown Lafayette, and like the whole town showed up, and there's bands and all kinds of stuff to wish the team well and see everybody off. And right in the middle of the photograph is this beautiful 462 Pacific that's a passenger steam engine, 462 big drivers, so it goes fast, sitting there all painted up for Purdue. And so that train took everybody down to Bloomington for the game and made a glorious entrance down there, I'm sure. And they played the game, and I don't remember who won. But then after the game was over, everybody came and got back on the train and rode it back to Lafayette, right? And amazingly, to me, the railroad then painted the engine back black. So it only stayed decorated like this for a few days. So the next year, 1929, Indiana is making the trip to Lafayette to play the Boilermakers. And of course, the Monon had a shop in Bloomington as well. So they decided to paint up a 462 Pacific in Indiana colors with, beat Purdue on it. The Scrappin' Hoosiers are coming to Lafayette to play this football game. And lo and behold, they did. They painted this engine up, and it brought the fans and the team and everybody to Lafayette, and it returned them safely to Bloomington. And wasn't that cool? Now, 1930 comes around. The guys at the Monon shops in Lafayette paint another engine for Purdue with more detail. Let's be gaudier. And down it went to Bloomington. In 1931, Indiana's turn to travel. Guess what? They painted it up again in Indiana colors, and it brought the team to Lafayette to play the Boilers in the Old Oaken Bucket game. And I think they did it again in 1932. I think they only did it for 5 years or 6 years. But how cool is that, right? Now, when I was a student at Purdue, in the Purdue Memorial Union building, there was a photograph, actually 2 photographs on the wall together. One was the Purdue version of the Monon 462, and one was the Indiana version of the Monon 462. And I remember seeing these like in 1970. And they've kind of stuck in my head kind of all this time. So 2021, first quarter 2021 comes around. MTH wants to make a steam engine, passenger steam engine, to go with the passenger cars that they just sold Atlas. So Atlas is going to announce passenger cars at the same time MTH is going to announce the engines. And I got a call from MTH saying that they'd heard that I wanted to make 2 special Monons, one decorated for Purdue, as it was in 1928, and one decorated for Indiana. And you know what? I would love to do that. That would be great. And in no time at all, MTH had the artwork done, and they sent it to us. We found a conductor from one of the trains is still alive. He's in a nursing home up in Lafayette. We went to visit him. We got the college yearbooks for Purdue and Indiana. They had pictures. The Journal Courier, which is a newspaper in Lafayette, had pictures. And we were able to kind of cobble together some more details. And I'm thrilled to tell you that today, both engines arrived from MTH at MrMuffin'sTrains. And as you can tell from the video, I am super excited about this. And I thought you'd like to see them. So let me show you the Indiana one first, because I'm right here by it. This is Monon engine 445. It's been repainted for Indiana. Now, Indiana's colors were cream and crimson. You can see the red, you can see the cream, see the IU football thing on there. Beautiful. Then back here's the tender. The scrapping Hoosiers, right? Scraping. On the Monon route. And there's an image of the Oaken Bucket on the side of the engine. The I and the P together is because one year they had a tie. And then those all look like peas to me. I don't know why the IU guys would want peas all over their engine, but that's it. So that's Indiana 445. And then up here in front of it is the Purdue version, Monon 451. The quarterback of the team, his nickname was Cotton Wilcox. He's here on the boiler. Hope you can see that. right there. Purdue 451, the gold wheels, the P. Back here, their punter is Pest Welch. He's back here. Beat Indiana. And then on the tender, there's a Purdue flag. And then up here, I thought you might like this. These are the names of the 11 guys, the starting 11 on the offense. Those are their last names. And the guys in Monon added them to the tender. I think that is so cool. Now, there's one thing about the engines that MTH did not do for me. Tough to do. The real pictures of the engines had additional decoration on them. And you can see right here, there's an IU on the front of the engine. And my friend Mike Benham had these 3D printed and painted them. And it's an option to put it on the engine. I think it's pretty cool. So that's on the IU one. And then the Purdue one had a sign made out of a couple of 4x8 sheets of plywood that said Beat IU, and was actually mounted up here a little higher. It won't stay up here without a little bit of glue, but I'll get that on. Beat IU. Oh, look, it is staying on the front of the engine. Is that like way cool or what? So let's just for fun, let's start them up. You want to? Let's start them up. So 451 is the Purdue version. Here we go. We'll listen to some of the sounds.
Now arriving from Lafayette, Indiana, train number 5 special, the Boilermakers. Now departing from Bloomington, Indiana, train number 5 special, the Boilermakers. This stop is Linden. This stop is Crawfordsville. This stop is Ladova. This stop is Rochdale. This stop is Greencastle. All aboard!
Is that cool? Now let's look at the IU one. We'll come over here. I'll shut the Purdue one down. I'll start the Indiana one.
Now arriving from Bloomington, Indiana, train number 6 special, the Hurrying Hoosiers. This stop is Greencastle. Now departing for Lafayette, Indiana, train number 6 special, the Hurrying Hoosiers. This stop is Rochdale. This stop is Ladova. This stop is Crawfordsville. This stop is Linden. All aboard!
Is that cool or what? Well, anyway, my sincere thank you to my friends at MTH, Rich Foster, Andy Edelman, Mike Wolf, of course, who said okay on the project. My buddy Charles, who does a lot of artwork for us. Oh my gosh, Charles, you did a great job. These engines look exactly like I dreamed they would. And they look exactly like the pictures I saw in the Purdue Memorial Union in the fall of 1970. Boiler up.